welcome to Halloween month. Okay, this is going to be so awesome. I'm really wanting to start the month off right, so I want us to start with a really cool special movie review Monday. So for this first week, what we're going to do is this is your top 10 films that are absolute must-sees on Netflix. And I do say Netflix specifically because that is where I 100% know you can find them. If you find them somewhere else, that's fine too, but definitely watch them this month. They're amazing. We're going to start it off on a high note. It's not going like top five, as in like number five is worse than the first one. These are all great films. These are just the main five spooky films I want you to see. Next, we're going to talk about not so spooky, but very good. But to start us off with our spooky list, we're going to look at the movie Hush. This movie is an extremely interesting film in the sense of it's not a character aspect that I personally have seen used before. The main character is deaf and also mute. There's a lot of parts of this movie where we go into her side of things and we experience that withdrawal that she's experiencing, and they do it so well. It's such a visual film because there are those moments, because there's those moments where they have wiped out all noise. There's literally zero white noise in those moments, and you are 100% listening to the absolute silence that she is stuck in, and that alone really fucks with someone's psyche if you're not used to it. If you're not hearing impaired and you're not used to that silence is just maddening. And they do it so well in this movie. They don't abuse it. They utilize it at the perfect moments to keep up the suspense. And it's just so incredibly done. The visual aspects of this are amazing. The cinematography, there's a lot of great shots. And the actors playing our victim and our attacker are 100% phenomenal actors. They clearly know what they're doing with horror. They know how to play the scene well. They know how to do the body language perfectly. It's very believable. It's very well done. And especially in a movie like this where the entire film is pretty much just these two actors, that is a big thing that is a must, and they did it perfectly. There are some other, random characters, but for the most part, this movie centralizes on these two that we see here in this picture. These are our two characters, and everybody else is just a side swipe. And that's fine. It works. It works well for this movie. It's amazing. Our next movie also, I want to point out, first off with Hush, I do want to point out, this is again a visual movie. You need to pay attention. I don't know about you guys. I know there's a lot of times I put on a movie on Netflix. I don't necessarily pay as much attention to it as I should. The movies I'm showing you here, a lot of these are ones you need to pay attention to because if you miss something, it does ruin a bit of the aspect of the films. Clown is another one because it does have slow moments, and you're going to want to be like, I can get up and get popcorn. I could go, answer this text real quick. But if you miss it, you might miss some of the best parts. Again, it slows a bit, but it's still a very good film. And Eli Roth is a great director, and he actually has a lot of movies on Netflix right now. In general, I recommend looking up everything Eli Roth that's on Netflix at this moment because it's all fantastic. But Clown in particular, to me, took the most unique take on the killer clown aspect. Again, the clown trope is not a new trope for horror movies, especially, the new It just came out. We all know clowns are creepy as hell. Even if you're not scared of clowns, you can admit that they're fucking creepy. This one in particular, though, rather than being a clown creature that's, terrorizing anything, whether it's a ghost or just some fucked up dude dressed as a clown, this takes on a whole new aspect of like a clown possession. This is a normal dad who just wanted to dress up one day as a clown to satisfy his son's birthday. And he slowly begins to transform into something else. And it's amazing. The special effects in this are one of the reasons I wanted this on the list. The other reason is the actress playing the wife. As I said before with our first movie, Hush, it was absolutely incredible because The actors know how to play their parts, and they play it well. It was very well cast. In this film, in particular, the son and the wife were both amazingly cast, but the wife especially. The wife is such a draw. Like the guy transforming is the main character, but there's a switch at one point where we're focusing a lot on the wife, and she takes that focus change well, and she really owns it. She doesn't just seem like, oh, we're looking at her, why? Like, it's not one of those moments where you change main characters and you have no idea why. You want to see her, you want to see what is going on with her, and you enjoy it. And that's kind of hard to ask a lot of times, I think, of a character change like that. Our next movie is another one that focuses on smaller casts and definitely smaller locations. Similar to Hush, we have one location. It's a cabin in the woods. Again, not new, I know. We also, again, have really two main characters. In Honeymoon, it's just this couple. This couple is our main characters, and then there's two other characters that we kind of see, but they are not that important. They are 100% side characters. Our focus is just these two, and they have such great chemistry on camera that it works absolutely perfectly. And especially for you Game of Thrones fans, you're going to be excited because you'll recognize her. You're going to recognize the wife, and you know she's a good actress. Her and her co-star are perfect together. This one is a perfect blend of our first two movie concepts in that while Hush was mainly a psychological thriller and Clown is very much a supernatural thriller, these kind of blend. Honeymoon blends the two in an extremely well done way. It doesn't overdo the supernatural, and the psychological aspect of it is more of a concept that I feel like a lot of people deal with in their everyday lives, in that idea of, do we really know who we're surrounding ourselves with? It's a both fascinating and terrifying idea that we don't know the people around us as well as we think we do, especially when it's somebody we're sharing a bed with and sharing a small space with. So this movie in particular does this very, very well. I keep repeating that, but again, there's a reason these movies are on the list. So Honeymoon is a definite must-see, and it is also one that there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of subtlety, so we have to keep an eye on it. You have got to pay attention to this one, especially. And then another one, this is also one you have to really pay attention to. Now, the next one, I have a lot of people who argue with me that maybe it's not actually horror. I think it counts. It's definitely a psychological horror, so we're back to that. But it's definitely thriller, suspenseful, and again, the actors are amazing, the writing is amazing. This film is They Look Like People. This focuses a lot on mental illness. So especially those of you who are really interested in those kinds of films that explore the kind of psychological aspect of horror in that it utilizes real mental disorders, it doesn't abuse them. There's a lot of issues that I have with psychological films where they take a mental disorder and they kind of satire it, and I don't like it. I hate it because mental disorder is a real thing. Like, mental disorders really affect people. This takes an extreme look at it, but not in a way that's offensive, not in a way that disregards the reality of mental illness. And it especially is amazing because a lot of times when you get mental illness in a horror film or a suspense film or whatever you want to consider this, a lot of times when you get mental illness, it's one character. We're following one character who is like, I don't like using this word, but for lack of a better phrase, insane in a sane world. However, in this film, we're looking at two characters who both have their own mental illnesses that they're working on, and it almost seems like you're constantly torn between this battle of them truly believing they are the sane ones in an insane world, and you never know whose insanity is affecting what. And it creates this awesome level of anticipation of you trying to see what is going to happen next and truly needing to look at the characters and who they are and how they're interacting with each other. our main focus is these two guys, but we do have other characters. So this is a bigger cast than some of the other films. But again, it's just, you really need to see it, and you really need to pay attention. I don't 100% recommend this to people who perhaps have a more sensitive trigger towards mental illness being used in movies, because I do feel like it could have a negative impact on you. So please bear that in mind before watching it. Um, and then our final movie for our spooky series, I do want to make a note. This is not technically on Netflix yet. So don't watch this movie and then immediately go and try and find this one. This one, I have been told, is supposed to come out October 4th. I got to see it on my own with some friends. That's how I'm aware of it. And I got really excited when I heard it was going to be on Netflix because I want to share it with people. This movie is called Raw. And this is one of those amazing, like, really well written coming of age type horrors where, you know, puberty is a nice concept for a horror movie, because that is a time that's already really a struggle for people. Coming of age type times are a time when things are changing. You know, you look at movies like Carrie and things like, and Teenage Werewolf, that sort of thing. There's all of those things, they play into puberty so well because it's already such a troubling time, and it's already considered a very big change, that to add in a supernatural aspect or some other kind of horror core concept to it makes it just better. It really does. It plays off of the classic coming of age movies that we love and adds a horror creation, like horror twist to it that makes it even better. Raw continues to do that. Raw takes a young woman who is coming of age and finds that she needs to eat raw meat, as the title would imply, you know, raw. They kind of give it away with that, but it's the whole storytelling aspect of it that's amazing. And the main character, you have moments where you don't like her, you have moments where you kind of feel for her. They take you on a nice roller coaster. It's a fun roller coaster. It's not one where it starts to get tedious at times. It's not one where they're overdoing it. It's just, in general, extremely well written. She's a very well written character, and the actress playing her does an amazing job. This one also, again, is very cinematography focused. This is a very artistic film. I definitely recommend keeping an eye out for those little nuances, the lighting, the sets, even just the music playing. They do a really good job of combining everything to create that perfect formula. I truly love it. I really do. I enjoy it. So those are our 5 spooky films that you need to see. I definitely recommend looking for those. Again, Raw is not going to be there until the 4th, so don't go looking for that beforehand. And then after you enjoy these amazing horror films, if you feel like you want a palate cleanser, or maybe if spooky or suspense isn't your thing and you want something more lighthearted that still fits Halloween, I'm going to recommend my favorite 5 spoopy films. And these ones are a lot more fun. So we're going to start with the one that's the most fun. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Now, if you're like me and you were a Firefly fan, you know Alan Tudyk, you love him. Honestly, even if you never watched Firefly, Alan Tudyk has done so much. He's such an incredible character actor. You've got to know him from something, even if you don't know it's him. He does not lose any of that ability in this film. He doesn't lose any of that amazing quality. Him and Tyler Labine both play the hillbillies perfectly well. Katrina Bowden makes for an amazing, like, intermediary character between the hillbillies and the college douchebags. The whole thing plays like this really fun, campy horror film, and it makes a lot of great references too. If you're a big horror fan like me, this movie is like reference city, and you will get so excited when you recognize them. You've got not lines, but you've got references to Fargo, you've got things to Evil Dead. It's all so well done, and it's really genuinely funny. It's not just like some B movies where it's so terrible of a horror film that it's funny. This was legitimately a dark comedy that was done so well. They really nailed it with that one. Another one that does an extremely good job with the comedy yoga hosers. Now, if you liked Clerks, you're going to love this because Kevin Smith actually did create it. This is definitely more of a younger people kind of movie. This is for like young adult, like super young adults. I'm talking like 19 young teenagers, even older kids like 10 could enjoy this. But adults enjoy it too. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an amazing movie. Again, Kevin Smith directs it. He wrote it. His daughter is starring in it with her friend. They took a lot of time with it. They play on the Canadian trope so much, but it's so well done. The comedy is great. The whole concept is amazing. Straight from the get-go, you're gonna love it. It's definitely, as you guys probably can tell from this poster, it definitely has a Kevin Smith feeling. Like, it's definitely Kevin Smith working on it. Right away from that poster, you're getting a reference to Clerks. I mean, and he does it well, so you can't argue that it's not going to be fun. Um, Another one that's fun, now this next one, though, is Netflix specific. So if you are watching this and you don't have Netflix and you're just planning on finding these elsewhere, you're probably not going to find this one. If you do, it's going to be really difficult. But so the other one is Little Evil. This is a Netflix original, just recently came out. I actually just watched it last night, immediately had to add it to this list. This is amazing. I was a big fan of Omen when it came out. I watched the original when the new one came out on 666. I went and saw it with a huge group of friends. I loved it. It was amazing. Adam Scott is a great comedic actor. He has that really great kind of sarcastic comedy blended with this like kind of naiveness in this movie. He has a naivete that's kind of refreshing. He's trying so hard to pretend that this kid is normal, and it's so amazing. The whole thing is just this perfect parody of The Omen. I love it. I absolutely do. I definitely recommend it. It's fantastic for a really fun film. It does get a little much at times. It's not really like a family movie, but there's a lot of swearing too. So this one is a total switch from Yoga Hosers, and this is kind of 100% adult. I would stick to this one being for adults only. Another one that follows that is Knights of Badassdom. I know it doesn't look at all like a horror movie. This is definitely a horror comedy that is totally playing on the LARPing thing, and it's amazing. As you guys can see from the cover too, Peter Dinklage is in it. I know, we're doing a lot of Game of Thrones actors. I'm not intentionally doing it. They're just amazing. I can't help it. But Peter Dinklage is absolutely incredible. And although Pixels might have you think differently, he is very good at comedy, and he does it so well in this. It's perfect. He's not even like the main character. He's just at the front of the group here. But our main character is actually the actor who played Jason in True Blood. It's phenomenal film. He's got this adorable quirkiness to him that he's supposed to be this goofy kid. It's actually, when you see the full cast, you're going to know it's going to be amazing. So they play into the LARPing, like, kind of make-believe type of storyline. If you're familiar, if you like films like, or shows like The Guild, things like that, you're especially going to love that aspect. And then if you like comedic horror, to me it reminded me a lot of the type of comedy that we see in Army of Darkness. So take that into account. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, I can't say too much about it because I don't want to give it away, but it's so good. And Peter Dinklage is so amazing in it, and you gotta watch it. And it's definitely a fun one to watch. This is a fun, like, drinking with your buddies type of spoopy film. I definitely recommend it, or even if you're just trying to have a fun night with your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband, whatever, your partner. This is a really funny one to watch. It also has a little bit of romance, so it gets cute at times. Now, this is our spoopy list. My next one, I consider spoopy. I don't know if it was trying to be spoopy. I think it might have been trying to be a legitimate horror film, but I'm putting it on the spoopy list because it wasn't scary, but it was extremely entertaining. So, Ava's Possessions. Okay, I have to tell you this concept entirely because it's amazing to me. I've never seen this done, and I love it. This is a story of a woman who was possessed by a demon, and we're coming to the story after she was already possessed and after she's been exorcised. So she's had an exorcism, she no longer has the demon, and now she has to deal with the repercussions. She has to deal with the people who recognize her that she doesn't remember, who she totally fucked with. She's got multiple indictments for like battery, assault, destruction of property. It's amazing. Like, this is all the things that I think some people that are weird like me really wonder. Like, if the exorcism works, what the fuck is happening to these people? Because they did some shit. This is what it is. Apparently, it happens often enough that there is a government-funded spiritual possession anonymous group. Is an AA meeting for those who have been possessed by demons. It's amazing. Okay, you follow along with Ava as she is going through this therapy and also going through the process of trying to rebuild her lost memories and figure out what happened to her and how to defeat her demons. It's so perfect. Yes, there's times where things are very much easily guessed, where you're going to be watching and you'll be like, oh no, I saw that coming from a mile away. This isn't that kind of horror movie. You're not trying to not know what's going to happen. They don't care if you can guess it, but it's funny. Again, I don't know if it was supposed to be. There's moments where it's like, okay, this was supposed to be creepy, but it gets so ridiculous, it can't be creepy. It's just entertaining. Also, as you can see from this poster here, this is very much also a very heavy special effects film. And the special effects makeup they do for the demonic possessions and everything is incredible. If you love special effects makeup like I do, I especially recommend this film just so you can watch and see the different things they do with the makeups and the characters. Because you don't just see Ava being possessed. Because you're going to go to her therapy class. You're going to see other people. And you're going to see other people who have been possessed and how they looked. You get to see wounds of what happened to people that maybe they affected. And it's done so well. It's so amazing. And the ending has this great constant turntable of twists. So awesome. Definitely check it out. So that's actually it with our spoopy films. Now, I have 3 more films. I know this is a top 10. I do have 3 more films that I kind of want to give like a special shout out to, but they really didn't fit particularly into one character or one category or the other to where I wanted to include them in that. So this is just kind of a special shout out type of thing. The first one is actually a documentary. It's called The Nightmare. Again, this is also one that's been on Netflix for a little while. It is a documentary, and I'm not talking like fake horror movie documentary. This is a legitimate documentary. And as somebody who has actually experienced sleep paralysis, which is what this documentary focuses on, this is a big one for me. I was very biased in including this, but I think it's an incredible film. They did it really well. And you know what? The fact that it's things that people have actually experienced, and they know it's happening in their head, but you can't do anything about it when this is happening to you, it kind of makes it more terrifying. This is when you're at your most vulnerable in bed, and it's a horrifying thing to experience. And the way they did the documentary really lets you, the viewer, truly get an idea of what these people go through. Apparently people in my household are already getting into the feeling of the month. So that one is, again, it's a documentary. If you're not into documentaries, that's fine. But I think if you're willing to watch a documentary that has a horror twist to it, they did very well recreating the people's paralysis like experiences. They do it so well, it does get very scary at times, and I recommend watching it. Probably not before bed. Another one I want to shout out is Final Girl. This is a strange one. I don't want to give out too much, but it's very well done. It's interesting. It's a semi-original concept, but the characters are all very fascinating, and the effects that they do with the story are also really great. That one, there's not much to say about it without giving away too much, but that one is a really fun one to watch. So I definitely recommend it. And it also makes for a really cool, easy Halloween costume. When you watch it, you'll really like her. The main character, it's a very simple character to recreate for a costume if you wanted to do something fun for a party too. Our final shout out is actually one that's super awesome, and I love Christopher Lloyd, so I love that he's in it. It's called I Am Not a Serial Killer. This is very strange for a storyline. We follow the main character who you think something weird is going to happen with him, but we find out that a separate character is actually our real antagonist. And this kid's fascination with being kind of mentally fucked up, it plays into this idea that as we approached in the honeymoon, people are not always who we think they are. And it also goes for the sense of we are not always who we think we are. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy the way that they played this out. And the main character is really young. He's a teenager. I think he's legitimately a teenager. He's playing a teenager, but I think the actor is actually that young. And he does so well. He does so well with the scenes, and he works perfectly with Christopher Lloyd. This is also another one, though, that is kind of a more artsy type of horror movie. This one, I will say, takes 2 watches. You can watch it once and enjoy it, but to really understand what's going on, it definitely takes 2 watches. I've seen it 3 times. It's good. It's good enough to watch that many times, but it's also necessary to at least watch more than once. So, you got to give it that. That being said, thank you guys so much for joining me. So, again, this is going to be a great month. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to finally get to October with this. Tonight, we're going to start Outlast. That's going to be our first spooky game of the month. So we're going to only be streaming horror movies. We'll probably throw in some Dead by Daylight occasionally. But it's going to be a lot of really good horror games. Sorry, and then movie review Mondays are going to be all horror movies. I'm going to find some of the best horror movies. You guys recommend to me your favorite horror movies. I would love to see them. I would love to get to watch them and let you know what I think of them. I might rewatch some horror movies that I enjoy that I've already seen just because I really want you guys to watch them. And I'm also definitely going to be doing a lot more special effects makeup. That's going to be a big one for this month. And I'm especially excited for actual Halloween, because when Halloween comes up, you guys are going to follow me as I create my Halloween costume. It's a really big one. It's not horror-based, but it is a very complex special effects makeup. We're going to be making prosthetics and everything. It's going to be so much fun. Speaking of, if you would like, because I know this is a bit of a longer one, if you would like, you can stick around after the outro video. I'm going to be doing just a little short narrative of how to make this skull half mask that I did. And then otherwise, feel free to just come stop by tonight. Tonight I'm going to be streaming 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, we're starting Outlast. Probably won't be doing a special effects makeup. I might redo this just for fun of it. But otherwise, we're just going to be playing the game. And I really look forward to playing through it. It's my first playthrough. It's probably going to get spoopy. So you guys have a lot of fun. I look forward to it. And definitely also, when you guys have Halloween costumes set up, send me pictures. I would love it. Tag me on Twitter. Send me stuff on Instagram. You can post them in the Discord. Send me some of your favorite horror movie, makeups and costumes and everything else that you've done. And until next time, you guys have a great month and enjoy all the horror. Boys and girls of all right. Hey guys, welcome. So, as you can see, I did already start doing some of the piece. Just colored in the nose. This is kind of the simplest part, really. So with this part, we just, as you guys also can see, I did already do kind of my base makeup. It might seem silly to you, do your foundation and everything and eyeshadow and such before you do a face paint, but the foundation can help the face paint and the body paint stick, but also because I want that contrast. I want this part to be the skull and this part to still be glam type makeup. So we do normal makeup up here, and then I just didn't bother with lipstick or anything. But I still put the foundation on to have that base. And now with the, normally always use a makeup brush, but because I'm going to be doing some more finer precision type stuff, I'm actually using a paintbrush. I really want that nice fine point. I also have a precision makeup brush, but that's going to be more for the smaller details. Um, but yes, I've already created like this socket shape for the nose, and right now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be outlining the mask. So right here is the beginning of it. We just want that. It might not be even. If it's not even, it's not a big deal. Don't worry too much about it if it's not even. But so you guys are going to see me kind of looking straight ahead instead of at the camera. I apologize for that. Normally I try not to, but I am going to try and use the camera as my mirror. I'm also partially using my phone like I do sometimes. One of these days I will have an actual makeup mirror here, and then we won't have to do it as much. But so, yeah, let's move on to it. I will be doing a voiceover for the rest of it, just so you guys know. This is just more of like a little intro. So, if you don't see my mouth moving, that's why. So as I said before, here we're just going to be continuing the outline of the skull. As we started off, we'll start with just outlining the top of the mask. Right here is where we actually are outlining the cheekbones and the jawline of the mask. You want to have it going from approximately your ear to towards the corner of your mouth for the top line, and then just arch down and kind of bring it just below your lower lip. You don't want it to reach your mouth, but you want it to be far enough from your chin that it kind of distinguishes the difference between where the actual tooth part of your jaw is and your bottom jaw piece. You also want to then take a precision brush, and you either can use a small brush or, like I did, a paintbrush for very finer points if it's easier. You're just going to make lines on the lips just for the teeth. So they're going to be kind of closer lines. You guys know how skull teeth look, so you make them wider towards the front. For this, I did still use the Mayron Paradise black body paint that I love to use. It's water activated, so you don't need a whole lot on your brush. You're also going to bring out the corners of your mouth a little bit longer, not too far, but just enough to kind of exaggerate the teeth part of the jaw since it is a skull. And continue the teeth marks out there. They don't have to be very thick. These are just the initial tooth marks. And you're also going to take some of the black and you're going to blend it into the inside part of your lips and the corners of your mouth as well to try and give it that depth. A lot of times what I like to do also is, I don't know about some of you, I know towards the winter and fall months I do tend to get more rough lips. They're kind of chapped. Most of the time I'll exfoliate them. For this kind of makeup, I actually avoided doing that. I feel like the dry lips actually kind of exaggerates the look of the teeth. So, you know, if you're constantly worried about chapped lips, this is actually a really fun makeup for you because all it does is help your look. Next, we're going to take a flat brush, just a small brush, and we're going to use the white Mayron body paint and just go over the teeth first. You can get it in between the black lines as best as you can, but if you go over some of the black, it's okay. Those are mostly just there for a line. We're going to go back over them later, so don't worry too much about it. But you just need a thin fill just so you get that initial white. You're going to go over this probably once or twice more depending on the quality of your body paint to make it stand out as teeth. But you want to just fill it for now so that way you get that detail in before you paint the rest of it white. Alright, so here you're going to take a little bit thicker of a brush, not too thick because you still don't want to risk blending it into the black too much. But you're just going to take the white body paint and just continue to fill out the top half of the skull, but only the top half, and you don't want to fill in those hollows just yet. Make us a trick or treat till the neighbor's gonna die right. We go home, everyone held to the banking zone. In this town, don't we love it now? Everybody's ready for the next to boys and girls of every age, would you like to see something strange? Come with us at USA, this our town of Halloween. Pumpkin scream in the dead of night. This is Halloween. Everybody make a swing, trick or treat till the neighbor's gonna die right. In the town, everybody screaming this town of Halloween. I am the one hiding under your bed, teeth roll sharp and eyes going red. I am the one hiding under your stairs, fingers like snakes and spiders in my head. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. 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 In this town, we go home. Everyone held to the pumpkin song. In this town, no will not be now. Everybody's waiting for the next to cry. La 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 la. So at this point, this is when I use the time to go back over things. You want to get a really nice white to it, and you're going to also use this moment to go back over your teeth as well. So I'm using the back of my phone so you guys can see. This is where I use like the small brush again. That's the size of the brush that I use for the teeth. You're going to go over it again, try and get it more of a standout white, because you do want it to pop from the rest of the skull. So now what you're going to do is you're going to actually go back with your, you can either use your paintbrush or just a small precision brush. Again, either one works, whatever you're comfortable with. But you're going to dip it back into the black and go back over the lines, just kind of thicken them and darken them. At this time, we're also going to take down the socket area of our jaw, and you're going to just kind of lightly brush. You want it to get more of a shading kind of aspect rather than a distinct line. And I apologize if you notice me looking away a lot. I'm also using my phone as a mirror. Just keep that in mind. But looking up at an actual mirror, I definitely recommend. You're going to get a more even look on the blending. Also, if you need to, you can use this time to go back over the nose as well. I kind of refigured out some of the points with it. And you also want to definitely go over the top of your mask again. You want to darken that line because you really want to make that distinct difference between your actual face and the mask. At this point also, go back with the black and kind of deepen those lines in between the teeth. You want to get those gaps back. When we went over with the white, you might have blended in some of it over the black lines, and you want to have those distinctly separate teeth. Otherwise, the jaw just isn't going to look right. So once you feel that all of your lines are distinctly thick as you want them, noticeable, you're going to use a flat precision brush. And the flat precision brush is a little bit different. You're going to actually use that, and you're not going to wet it so much. You're going to actually, I brushed it dry into my body paint, and you want to get more of a shading. So you're going to brush it like you would eyeshadow. You want to put it right into those center sockets of the jaw, and you want to fill it out. You don't want to make a distinct line at the end of it. You want to fill it in and fill it in these light little brush strokes so you kind of get that shadowy brushed look, and it's going to have that end you're going to see, rather than being a straight line, is a little jagged, it's rough, it's kind of softer, because you don't want it too deep. So make sure you're not putting it into this wet spot on your body paint. Brush it into the dry. At the same time, you also can use the point. You're going to take that dried part of the body paint and you're going to lightly brush over the teeth. Just create little points, or you can do a rounded edge, whatever look you prefer. But what you're creating is the gum line around the teeth, or where the gums would be if you still had them. But it creates the top of the teeth and accentuates them more. It also kind of helps to add more depth to the space between the teeth as well. So you're also going to take this shading and you're going to put it more into those sockets. So where we used the actual paintbrush, we're going to then just lightly brush down just to get more of a shadowy look in those corners. Again, you don't want that part too deep. You just want it to be a shading kind of look, not a flat black look. Those are the kinds of things you need to keep soft. Once you're satisfied with how that looks, you're going to take your white paint and you're going to finish painting the bottom half of the skull, the rest of the jaw. Be very careful around the teeth. Again, you don't want to go back over the black. You can fix it if you do go over it, but just try to follow the lines of where all the shading is so you don't create that striking straight line. Go over it nicely. Once you get through those shaded spots and you've sufficiently outlined them to where you feel that you haven't ruined the look of that particular area, then you can kind of take a bigger brush if you like. I started off with a smaller brush and I went bigger just to finish painting in the bigger spaces a little faster. So also at this point, you guys will notice I went back over the white on the top. This is where you can kind of fix up those points of the nose too, because you want to eventually have the white covering up the top of those. So I wasn't satisfied with the points of mine. I kind of tidied it up a little bit. Using the white is a really nice way to tidy up some of the black lines where maybe you felt your hand might have been shaky or if it was thicker than you wanted it to be. So once again, we're going to use our precision brush. We're using a different one than we used with the black because this time, rather than using black body paint, we're actually going to be using eyeshadow. So you want to use a black eyeshadow. You also can just use a dark gray if you like. But here's where you're going to actually go over with the fine point of the edge. And you're going to blend and create shading lines first off underneath the line of the mask. And you're also going to want to do it in some of the any place essentially where you want a shadow that you feel the body paint couldn't handle. I particularly like to do it the more powdery shadows underneath the top of the mask. I also like to do it against the top jawline of the skull as well. So I started with that, putting it also in the little sockets in the jaw. This is where I started with a dark gray, and I'll show you my eyeshadow palette in a second. I went over it with dark gray, but then I actually went back over with black for the shading. Now, some people might think that's a little backwards, but because the way that we did the shading first, I used the dark gray to make the initial line, and then we're going to blend in the black, and the black gets blended nicely enough that it does create that deep shadow versus seeming too much of a deep set color against the gray. It blends well enough into the cream makeup and the body paint that we actually get a better shadow effect with it. And mind you, the eye makeup that I showed you just there is actually just a simple like $3 eyeshadow palette for like goth makeup that I got from a Halloween store. You really don't need to go too extreme with buying eyeshadow and things like that. You can use just the simplest of stuff. But again, just blend along those shadowing lines that we made before. This is also a good time where you can take the eyeshadow, and if you want to add more depth to your teeth, again, you can touch up some of the lines surrounding the teeth, the tops and the bottoms of them. You also can use it to add some more deep set cracks in between the teeth as well. And then you're also going to take some of the shadow. I like to do it a little bit on the bottom of the chin as well. As you saw, I like to follow the bottom half of my face a bit sometimes just to kind of add that extra shading. Always touch up that space in between your lips as well. If it's not black, it's not going to look quite as deep set. It's not going to have the same effect. And make sure that you don't miss the corners of your mouth. Sometimes it's easier just to slightly part your lip and brush the brush through. But there you guys have it. So that's your half skull, half mask. Really simple to do, only takes a couple different colors, just the 2 body paints and then some eyeshadow. It's super easy, it's super fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me, and and thank you so much for coming out. You guys have a great night, and I will see you later to play some Outlast. And for those of you that stuck around for this entire hour-long video, which is insanely longer than I usually do, thank you double, because that is truly impressive. You guys have a great evening.
Following pumpkin street in the dead of night.